Welcome everybody to the August meeting of the Cumbrae Community Council. Thank you for joining. There's just a few more people coming in. I'll let them in as we go. I just wanted to start by I've had apologies from Graham, who's elsewhere in the country, and Louise Riddocks. And does anybody have a declaration of interest? No. The last minutes were put up and the recording was put up. Does anybody have any comments they want to make about that last meeting? No? Okay. And today we're going to begin. Hopefully we'll be quite tight with the agenda, but wanted to begin just with some feedback in terms of the second home council tax. So I'm going to hand over to Gregor, who's been doing the work on this, just to give a quick update of where we're at and what we're proposing doing next. So we could just share that as a discussion point with the community.
So I'm sure people remember that we challenged the introduction of the second home council tax premium on the basis that the island community's impact assessment North Ayrshire Council carried out hadn't been done properly, and they used that as a justification to introduce it. Whereas the second home council tax has a massively disproportionate effect on Milport compared to anywhere else. And the law requires them to do something about that, which they didn't. So we challenged it, and the first step in that challenge is that they've got feedback from the two departments that we're dealing with it, which is finance and housing in the local authority. And they have given us that feedback to comment on. And I can only describe it as disappointing. When people haven't done the homework properly. It was pretty poor quality. So the housing one was one paragraph, which just said that it would be illegal for them to assess the condition of people's properties on the island, which I don't understand. And then some tables that I don't even know what they were. So it was really embarrassingly poor. And the finance one simply went over the points that were in the original Island Communities Impact Assessment. So it was sort of a waste of time. So we're proposing to write back to them. We're able to respond to that, to say that, to re-point them to the main issue here, which neither of the bits of feedback addressed, which is that North Ayrshire Council, when they identified that there was a particular issue for Cumbrae, the law requires that they do something about that, and they didn't. So they haven't discharged their obligations under the National Islands Plan. So we're planning to write back to them to point that out, but we're also planning to copy that to the Cabinet Secretary for Islands to ask for oversight of this process, because one of the problems with the process is that North Ayrshire Council are reviewing their own impact assessment. So inevitably they're going to say it was fine, even though it wasn't. So we're going to ask for central government oversight of the process. And they might give that because, as far as I know, we are the first people ever to challenge an island community's impact assessment. And I've spoken to some of the people that were involved in developing the initial policy, and they were aware, even at the time, that allowing local authorities to review their own impact assessments was an error in the legislation. And in fact, one of the people that was involved is now looking at proposing some policy recommendations to change the legislation because there's a clear conflict of interest in it. So our proposal is to write to North Ayrshire Council, remind them of the main point, which they haven't addressed, copy it to the Cabinet Secretary, ask for oversight. But then we, assuming that they will say their own review was fine, which they probably will, we then have to decide what to do next, or whether we do something next. And there's no process within the legislation for us to challenge the review. So we would probably have to ask for a judicial review of the way that the decision-making process happens. because there's a clear conflict of interest and an inevitable perception of bias. So that is our option. And yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. So I don't know if anybody has any views on that, or if anybody knows any lawyers that we could get some legal advice from, because I'm getting to the limit of what I can do from understanding the legislation. Yeah, Councillor Collier. Sorry, I was acting as chair there, Alex.
Councillor Collier, would you like to speak now?
Thank you, Alex. Obviously, that's. I'm not commenting on that. That you said about going to cabinet secretary. That's totally up to yourselves and your decision. But you did miss out the part that in the process that both the review of the initial impact assessment that you've just obviously spoken about, and is going to the cabinet. Is going to the cabinet to be reconsidered.
I didn't know that we didn't know that. We haven't been notified about that.
They haven't told us that.
Is that not in the things that I sent you? That's how I found out about it. So
I don't know that I got something from you.
My understanding of the process is that they've had the review, then the whole decision about the council tax on Cumbrae will get sent back to cabinet for further, and your submission, your feedback will form very much part of that. Because you had 2 weeks to respond.
We have to respond by, I think we've got 3 weeks, so we have to respond by the 4th.
I understood it was 2 weeks, but that could be, I mean, maybe it's 2 weeks now. But I just tried to sort of make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of procedure. Because I'm not saying that precludes doing what you've just discussed. That's up to yourselves, as I said. But what I'm not sure about the cabinet is what process, what are they expecting? You know, do they want a big presentation? Do they want a personal appearance? What is it they're looking for? Because I've never been involved with this before. I just wondered if you'd been told. No.
I mean, my assumption is that there will be a recommendation to cabinet, and the recommendation will be that they say the review was fine, and then if there's a vote, it's likely to go along the same lines as the original vote.
Obviously, but
introducing the policy.
The cabinet also have to consider your feedback and what you're saying at this point, not just what the council say about their own review. I think it's important that your points are made.
They ignored all the feedback during the consultation process, so I don't see why they were doing anything different here. I mean, I hope they will, but I think it's very unlikely.
I totally do. All I'm saying is that it would be, if they've asked you to do that, and I don't really understand why the communication hasn't worked, but I mean, who knows sometimes how that works. But I just think it'd be good if there was one of your thorough feedback or representations was made to be considered by cabinet, so that if you do want to take it further, that at every stage you have put forward a professional and informed feedback, which might contrast with other documents you've since mentioned.
Can I come in, because I think one of the...
I guess in our response we'll ask them what the procedure is from this point forward.
I think that's a good idea, clarity. Yeah.
And if it goes to cabinet, can we make representations to the cabinet?
Yeah, I think that would be a good point, just to make sure you're covering all the stages properly before if you want to take it further.
Okay.
I think just because we feel a little bit as if it's a tiny bit like when we were dealing with a solar farm, there are a number of different issues within the second home council tax, but there's one fundamental one, which is that they aren't considering the impact. They acknowledge there's going to be an impact on Cumbrae, but they haven't found a way of saying what they're going to do about it. They've done nothing about it. And so we were trying to make a response where we didn't get taken down a rabbit hole in which we're talking about numbers of houses or whether they can measure, but we can do a detailed response back to them. But there's that one golden thing. They know it causes a huge harm to Cumbrae, but they haven't said what they're going to do about solving that.
And they're required to do that by the Islands Act. So they've got a legal obligation to do that, and they haven't done it.
No, so I wasn't saying that. All I'm saying is that this the bit that was missing. That was all I was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
thank you.
that's fair,
That's really
fair
helpful.
point. We'll take it on board. Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Does anybody else want to come in on this?
Or does anybody else know a lawyer?
Okay,
No.
I think that's a no.
Does
Gregor. I
anybody
think
else
you're going
want
to
to
have
do
to
a
carry
quick
on.
open university course on judicial reviews?
Right. Could anybody who thinks they know a lawyer on the island get in touch with us? That would be really great. Okay. So I'm going to go through just to keep moving, quick updates from organisations. Do we have anyone from the police here? Hi.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have
good.
a bit of speaking to
Okay.
that.
All right, so during the last month, we've had 25 calls to the police for various incidents, mainly assist members of the public and inquiries. There has been some criminal activity going on, mainly antisocial behaviour, disturbances, breaches of the peace, which have resulted in 6 crime reports being raised, and multiple people have been reported or are going to be reported for those offences. During the previous June to July, there was 10 CRs created, and from there there was disposals of various methods. Again, that was mainly for antisocial behaviour type offences. So they have been dealt with either via our disposal methods or via reports. That did include things such as drunk or drug driving. We found one chap on the island doing that. Usual domestic incidents and breaches of the peace and vandalisms, which you're probably all aware of. That's what we've been dealing with, along with obviously we thought it was a very successful Retrofest. It seemed to be very well attended, and the Millport was busy, along with obviously the Country and Western Weekend. So those events have kept us busy with the visitors to the island. So I don't know if there's anything for me from the members who have joined this meeting.
For me, there's just two things. One is thank you for going round. I'm not sure who it was out of the team to look at the car that was reported to me. That was we weren't sure if it was abandoned, and it had been there for quite a while. So thank you for dealing with that. And then the other thing to say is I had some specific complaints of noise after the event from the latest scooter rally that wasn't a scooter rally, partly because of the amount of camping that then took place in front of a lot of houses and people sitting on the streets. So I took some photographs that I will share with Councillor Collier, because I think it's quite surprising. Like, there were 4 tents pitched outside the Chinese restaurant on the grass, and those people were then out until beyond 2 o'clock in the morning, because when the following morning I went in to go and get some milk, the people who were then serving the milk said they hadn't slept at all. They were quite grumpy. So it's just about how those things are managed for the residents on the island.
Yeah, well, you'll probably be aware then that there was a change to the setup of this year's scooter rally due to falling out within the different scooter clubs. So because of that, there's the standard format of the marquee and the camping within the garrison. That didn't happen this year. So normally the camping would be contained within the garrison, but because of the 2 factions basically of the scooter rally that were here, they divided into 2 parties and they did their own thing. So it's almost like a 2-in-1 event, which, as a policing point of view, and I'm sure from a community point of view, there was far more oversight when it was a single event and all the scooter communities got on, which they didn't this year.
I think the issue that was given to me, I think people are exhausted with the camping all the way around the back of the island. But this felt like a free-for-all, and it felt like people could just camp on any piece of grass that they saw, regardless if it was in front of somebody's house. And I think the island just feels, I mean, Councillor Collier, I know we need to take this to the next stage, but it's just, it shouldn't be like that unless everybody feels that that's a great idea and everyone I'm talking to doesn't.
I absolutely agree with you. There's not many community council meetings I don't come to and camping isn't mentioned. So we know it's a priority for the local community, but since our last local community council meeting, I have been in contact with the council and made a couple of suggestions in how this can be restricted or dealt with. But unfortunately, it's not going to be from a policing point of view. If you want to control your camping on the island, the council's going to have to get involved, and they're going to have to come up with some kind of bylaw that will restrict or control the camping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, just so everyone's aware, I had a good conversation and I thought it was good. John, I hope you didn't feel traumatized by it, but we can come on to later on. But John's going to be telling us whether or not the golf club would be the first participant that would enable us to potentially get a group that could lease the land that then could create a bylaw. Because at the moment, it's not possible because it's not council land, and it's technically we'd need to get that held over. So, Councillor Collier, we've got the first agreement, but we can come on to that later on in the meeting if that's okay. So thank you for that report. That sounds like you've been kept extremely busy.
Indeed. Yeah.
It's surprising how a small island can do that, so thank you. Do we have the Coast Guard here, unless anyone's got any questions? Okay, Coast Guard, John, please.
Alex, everyone. Yeah, so last time around we asked North Ayrshire Council if they could do something about the pier being used as a car park and the risk of the unprotected edge. Darren from Roads kindly took that away, and we got feedback to say that they didn't want to discourage use of the pier. Therefore they won't be putting up anything like a traffic bollard or further signposted restrictions. They will defer to decriminalise parking enforcement to deal with that whenever vehicles on the pier becomes an issue. In terms of operational tasking, since the last meeting we worked with the police on a potential missing person on the island. We had call outs for children on the rock armour, a vessel that had set off a distress beacon. We had a patient transfer off the island via Helimed. We had a paddleboarder in difficulty and a dinghy plus its young occupants being blown out to sea. And finally, again, with the police in the early hours of Tuesday this week with a potential person in the water. Main event over the summer for us was probably unsurprisingly big exercise on the rock armour by Clyde Street with some of our flank teams from the mainland, the ambulance, the RNLI, and the scenario was a casualty that had gone in amongst the rocks and injured themselves. So that was a long time coming. Lots of good learnings from that. Looking into September, we've got the Cumbrae weekend of the Largs Regatta Festival this weekend. So there'll be various dinghies, catamarans and keelboats racing from Largs around the islands. And we've added another recruit to the team, taking us up to 8, which is great news. Finally, there's no emergency services day this year. So if any of the community groups or the school would like a visit from the team or to visit the station, then please get in touch and we'll be happy to arrange that. And that's all for me, unless anyone has any questions.
Did North Ayrshire Council give you any reasons? Gregor, I've just to come in to say why they didn't want to restrict access to the pier.
The justification that we got forwarded on was that they didn't want to discourage legitimate use of the pier. They didn't quantify what they believed to be legitimate use, but we spelled it out in no uncertain terms, the risk posed by the unprotected edge. So we're not going to pursue that any further, but they did ask that if it becomes a problem in future, please let them know. So it doesn't seem that's going to go anywhere further.
Okay. Gregor, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, there is a North Ayrshire Council sign on the pier saying no unauthorised vehicles. I'm not certain why they bothered putting that up if they're not interested in doing anything about it.
Yeah, quite so. That was our position as well.
Okay, thank you. That sounds as if you've been really busy and you're going to have a busy weekend. Very good. Thank you. Do we have anything from IOCTA? Duncan? I always look at you. No? Okay, CCDC.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, starting with the garrison, I'm delighted to say that the pointing works are effectively complete, apart from snagging on the east elevation. The stonemasons and his team, they continue work on the indents. There was a delay on delivery of some of the stone due to defects at the supplier's yard, but that's been rectified, so stoneworks are now progressing very well. There are still repairs to be carried out to the west and east gable chimneys. So we'll be needing to bring a cherry picker in for that, and also scaffold saddles will require to be put on the inboard chimneys. Water testing is also to be conducted once the final stonework and window mastic are complete, and 4 areas will be evaluated on the 3 elevations that have been worked on as part of the project. Over in the drop-in centre, stage 1 of the works have been completed over the summer break by the youth project team and their contractors, and regular groups who use the space are returning as of this week. Stage 2 of the work, they hope, will be completed around bookings using the space, and the plan and official opening later this month. The planned repairs to the AstroTurf were conducted on the 20th of July, and we're hoping that these repairs are appreciated by its users and are long lasting. Over the last 2 months in the garrison and its ground, we've hosted the Kea Leisure Summer Camp, a craft fair, an additional Boys Brigade camp made of members from Denmark and the east coast of Scotland. We've also provided camping space for the Glasgow Globetrotters 45th anniversary celebration weekend, which was a fundraising event in aid of the Beats and West of Scotland Cancer Centre in Glasgow. The Alan Dimmock exhibition is now ended, which culminated in an artist talk session held within the glass room of the garrison on the 23rd of August. And we are now looking forward to an exhibition by artist Michelle Winslow, which will be installed on the 6th of September. On to CCDC matters, and I'm happy to say that I've been informed by North Ayrshire Council that the pit stop funding grant paperwork in relation to the public toilets on Cumbrae is currently being finalised. Hopefully we can soon start the proposed work of improvements and installation of solar, etc., to help us to be more eco-friendly, generating clean renewable energy and helping in a small way to combat climate change, as well as the installations take place will reduce our outgoings in relation to electricity and water usage at our sites. Lastly, some of you may be aware from information shared on a website and Facebook page that CCDC have the opportunity to take ownership of the West Lodge from Cunningham Housing Association, and we are currently working with Scottish Land Fund to this end. Our stage 1 application has been submitted, and we will update the community once we receive word back from the Scottish Land Fund panel. Our aim is to secure the future of the West Lodge for both the community and businesses operating from within, to ensure there are opportunities for businesses to thrive, to help grow our economy on the island and reduce the number of people needing to travel to the mainland for work. Though this process will take some time to work through, our current application to Scottish Land Fund, if successful, would allow CCDC to take ownership of the West Lodge in approximately 12 to 18 months' time. Members of our community are invited to share their comments and views either via social media or email myself, jan.wilkie@garrisonhousecumbrae.com, or in person at the Garrison House office. And that concludes the report from CCDC. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Because that's such a comprehensive report. Someone must have a question for that. That's a bit disappointing. Jan, that's really impressive, and it's really great to see the works going on with the garrison and seeing that develop and all the things that you've got going on. Wow, busy.
Thank you. It has been. It's good. All good. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Next, I've got Cumbrae Forum.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We're a reminder that all our summer vouchers that were given out to all our members over the summer are due to be used by Saturday. So the last couple of days to spend your vouchers if you haven't already done so. We are preparing to start back our lunch club on Wednesday, the 17th of September in the Newton Bar at 12:30 p.m. There will be, I'm advised, there will be a bonanza raffle, which there are great prizes at this on the first lunch club back. Unfortunately, lunch club membership is full at the moment, but our memberships are due towards the end of the year, so there may be places may become available towards the end of the year. So I'll keep you updated on that. The hub continues to be very busy, used by lots of local clubs and groups. So we're finding it quite hard to get board meetings fitted in when because there's other groups using it, which is a good complaint. We have given donations in the past 2 months. We've given donations to Millport Dance Troupe, to Millport AFC Football Club, to the Pipe Band, to the Parent Council, Cathedral of the Isles, and to Our Lady's Church in Millport. So we've been able to make donations to those groups, and we've had several letters back thanking us for that. And that concludes the report from Cumbrae Forum.
Wow, you've been busy as well. That's really
Yep.
impressive. I'd like to say that I feel I gave some of those donations by purchasing many items in your shop.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No, thank you. I don't think we have Millport Motors here, do we? No. So Millport Golf Club.
Yeah, hi everyone. Just a few points. We've had quite a busy summer at the golf club. Our numbers of visitors was up so far, somewhere in the region, I don't know the exact number, somewhere between 400 and 500 extra visitors playing golf, which is quite a big percentage, maybe like 30% up maybe on what we normally get. And we're kind of finding now we're almost at saturation point in terms of managing them, you know, all these people. So looking ahead, we could probably bring more people to the island, and I think that we probably need a couple of things for next year. We might need to employ an extra kind of part-time person to kind of look after all these golfers. At the moment, Trish in the shop does it all through the week, and at the weekends we get volunteers. But we could probably justify someone else next summer. And also the other thing is, which is more of a long-term thing, is like in the peak season, we find that we're missing out on some groups of golfers who have to travel and stay over. And we find it difficult to offer them the kind of appropriate accommodation because golfers don't really like camping. They're not going to stay in tents usually. So we're kind of looking at how we can help people with that, especially in the sort of June, July, August period. And then on the camping point that came up earlier, the golf club has a big field right beside the clubhouse, you know, like between past the graveyard and before you get to the golf course. And whenever they've had the big country western weekends in the past, that has been used for camping and everything. And it's been quite a good thing for the golf club because, you know, we can keep the clubhouse open. People can have showers, they can pay for have a shower, they can get their breakfast in the morning, and it keeps people out from like under your feet down the front, you know, like they can go and camp there. Earlier this year I had a conversation with Craig from the Pier Hotel when he was saying about the scooter rally and things like that were happening, and there wasn't going to be all the usual facilities put forward, and we had a discussion about could we host some of these people and maybe set something up. But what we found was we didn't really know who to talk to, you know, to manage it, because what you need to do with these things is, you know, if there's a central person who's selling tickets or something, then, you know, you can also sell them accommodation. And I think when the golf club has done the camping hosting, they would bring in a third party, like a specialist company who would provide, you know, special tents and everything, and, you know, like what they call glamping pods and things that people could pay for in advance, and then, you know, folk who couldn't afford it could bring their own tent. So what my feeling is, if we're going to have some of these events, these big like scooter rally type things or country western or whatever, is there some way of kind of centralizing the control of what, not to chase people away, but if you can centralize the control of it, then it's maybe there are probably opportunities on the island to manage it a bit better, so it's not a kind of free for all. And I think the golf club would be willing to kind of help with that, but I don't think we would be able to manage the whole thing. You know, whoever's advertising the scooter event or the country western event should have some kind of responsibility of, you know, taking names and phone numbers and that sort of thing. So that was all really.
Thank you. That's really interesting points raised. Does anybody want to come back on that right now? Scott.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, John, previously with these events, they were ticketed events, and therefore the festivals committee would have a role to play there. Particularly with the country music festival, it was usually myself and Trish that dealt with the campsite between the golf club and the festivals committee. Quite successfully, I would add. The golf club was a great venue for that. Unfortunately, for reasons that are kind of out with the control of the festivals committee and the organisers, to be fair as well, running these bigger events are becoming more and more difficult. And because of that, they're no longer ticketed events. So there is no real central person that's running these. Retrofest was slightly different because that's been taken on and run by Susan Curry and a few others, I believe. But certainly at the moment with the country weekend and the scooter weekend, as it seemed to happen this year, there wasn't really central organisation for that. And I think that's mainly down to it's not a ticketed event anymore.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, if it has to be like that, I think that we're inevitably going to have problems with people pitching their tent outside someone's front door. I mean that. But I mean, I don't know how to do it, but that would be something if, you know, someone was going to suggest we want to have some kind of big festival. Is there needs to be, you know, someone has to be in charge of it. And then if someone's in charge, then we could probably kind of, or everybody could chip in and kind of help and advise and so on.
Gregor, can I bring you in?
Am I being stupid by having assumed that IOCTA had some sort of control of some of these events or interest in some of these events? Do they not? Maybe they don't.
IOCTA, I believe, were involved with Retrofest. Previously with the Country Music Festival and Scooter Rally, it was the festivals committee that dealt with that. But it was only really those kind of two events that they were involved in. Certainly in the kind of latter years. Rising costs, difficulties in getting the appropriate licenses, etc., have all basically contributed to the Country Music Festival as it was and the scooter weekend or scooter rally as it was being unviable at the moment. Now, whether that changes again in the future, I don't know. But that's the kind of situation at the moment.
Scott, can I just come in here? I mean, 'cause on my other side of my life, I run the marketing for all the events in Glasgow. And so we put out messaging telling people how we want them to behave. So even if they're not ticketed, we can set out guidelines. And I think maybe there's something that we need to have a conversation before the season starts again next year as to what events are going to come in, whether they're ticketed and how they're managed. And if they're not ticketed, you can put out guidelines that says it's not acceptable to park outside or have a tent outside someone's house because it's outside someone's house. But we need to work with North Ayrshire Council, don't we? Because then we need to be in a position where we can actually do something about it. Otherwise, all we're doing is making a negative image for Millport, which isn't what we really want to do. So should we take this conversation offline and pick it up? Because I'm mindful of time now. But I think it's something for us to consider for next year's. And we do appreciate that events are really expensive and running them in a good way. And there are lots of events that have happened on Millport over the years that have been so brilliantly run. And there are some that have had challenges. And it's just about how do we move forward and learn from where we've been, really. Councillor Collier. You're still on mute.
No, mute.
Yeah.
Quickly, this is an issue which the council struggle with on the mainland in terms of car cruises in Irvine. And as share licensing, we've been working and we've done new guidelines and things. On the public entertainment license, we're just reviewing the terms and conditions of public entertainment licenses. But the main issue has been raised, as I mentioned several times just there, is that when there's nobody in charge and no overarching body, it's very, very difficult to stop an event which is organised through online. But I think Alex's suggestion is very good, but obviously I'll take it up for the council as well and see how we can assist in any way to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to just keep moving. So moving now to Cumbrae Primary.
So it's Jennifer Nielsen here in place of Julie. I don't know if everybody's aware, but Julie Macaulay has been seconded to Glebe Primary School on a temporary basis. So I was the PT, the principal teacher of Cumbrae Primary, so I'm now acting head. And Julie Joyce, the primary 6-7 teacher, has stepped up to my role as principal teacher. So we don't know how long it's going to be. It's a secondment that's a kind of open-ended, but hopefully it won't be too long. She'll be back with you. So we've had a good start to the year. All the children have settled in well and looking forward to the year ahead. Primary ones are all nice and smiley faces every day. We've got a busy year ahead. We've already got a few trips booked for the children. The older children, the primary 6-7s, are going to, well, they don't know this yet, so we're just waiting to finalise things. So we've got a trip for them. They're doing Egyptian, so we're getting a trip for them. And the primary 3-4-5, they're doing the Vikings, so they're having a trip too. The primary 1-2s are already over with the gardeners, with the gardening ladies, and been enjoying their produce that they've been growing over the year. So that's all in hand as well. They love that. Towards the end of the year, we've got the celebrations of the 150 years anniversary since the school opened. So maybe in the last term, we're going to do we've planned some nice activities. So if anybody has photographs or things that are pertinent to the school from the past, would be grateful of any donations or even like something to borrow. And I'm sure we'll be in touch with the garrison as well to organise that. We're doing a school show this year, hopefully before the Easter holidays. So this year it's going to be the Wizard of Oz. No jokes about witches, please, and the school staff. So that's it really. And I would, I don't think John's still here, but we would definitely like to take him up on his offer of the Coast Guard visit, because it's been a few years. So I'll get in touch with him and get the emergency services. And we quite often have Scott in school, or we have the ambulance service. So that'll be ongoing as well. So.
Oh, that sounds really lovely. Any questions here? Okay, so thank you and welcome to the meeting. It's good to hear, and it's really lovely to hear what's going on. And it's so nice to get kind of like the different perspectives on the island and know all of the different kind of layers of what's happening. So on that basis, I'm going to hand over to Field Studies Council. Thank you.
Hi there. It's been a busy last 2 months at the centre. We've had 3 full centre bookings with religious groups, bringing over 400 guests between them. The Baha'i Council, the Bangla Centre and the Northern Quakers, to name the 3. Before the end of the term, we had a visit from Southampton University, who brought over 120 students up in coaches from the south coast, which apparently was a nightmare, but anyway, they managed it. And we've had over 150 primary and secondary schools coming just basically before the school sessions finished, from Morrison's Academy, Maidstone Grammar, Ripon Grammar and Holmes Chapel schools. And with the recess, our teaching staff all enjoyed a well-earned break with some time off. We've started a major investment at the centre to install a new seawater system. I don't know if you've noticed in the way passing, there's been diggers and all sorts going on. The seawater system's replaced the old system, which was built in the late 50s. So it's had its day. Things are starting to crumble. So There's two 15,000 litre tanks have just arrived on the island. So we'll have 30,000 litres of fresh seawater in holding tanks. And it's going to be supplied by two main seawater pumps, which have now been put into place to provide seawater 24 hours a day to the main aquarium, 4 classrooms, 14 outdoor tanks, plus we'll have a large 6-roomed research aquarium at the rear of the main building. So we've laid over 300 metres of pipeline, and it's been tiring. Anyway, we're just about there, and we're hopefully it's completed by mid-September. And finally, a wee note that I may have forgot to mention, Alex, the notice board has been delivered. At long last, we have a notice board.
It's been a few years, so we know our previous notice board, every time we put up a notice, it blew sideways and kind of shredded itself.
Yeah.
So we have a new notice board. We had to get planning permission. We've got planning permission. It's been a journey, so that's really exciting. That's brilliant. Yeah. And then the only other thing maybe that you wouldn't have had on your report, but just to mention to everybody, is that I've been back and forth in touch with Elka about some discussion around rewilding and going in for a rewilding grant and an assessment. And I'm relying on John McHenry to help with understanding what should and shouldn't happen. So that Elka's just come back. I'll forward that back to you. And Scott, I told her she needed to talk to you as well. Hello, Scott. I think we're talking squirrels at this stage. I think squirrels were discussed. Don't know. Anyway, we missed the deadline, but she's looking for a later deadline. So I'll forward you on that email. Thank you. Any questions, comments? I'd just like to say that's a lot of seawater, and I'm just picturing you drinking a lot of seawater. Okay.
Okay.
Very users group. And by the way, I'm mindful of time, and I'm only looking for good news.
Good news and fairies don't go in the same sentence in the rest of Scotland, Alex. You should know that by now.
The challenge.
So, CalMac contract, I believe we'll start a new contract in October to some sort of annual rolling contract. Been doing work with the Ferries Community Board, trying to continue to build pressure to make it community accountability. That's continues to be an uphill struggle. More locally, CMA's planning application to rebuild Cumbrae Slip made a number of objections through the Ferry Committee and through the Community Council, particularly about the terminal building, which was warm and heated for the staff, but open to the wind and the rain for the public. So I've heard some snippets that there might be doing some improvements to it, but I haven't had any definitive answers yet. And appreciate the support for local councillors as well, and highlighting our concerns. So winter timetable starts 20th of October. So just be thinking as you go through October, make sure you use up all the tickets you've got. The Loch Year goes for its annual service between 19th of January and 6th of February, and we'll have the Loch Fine as the plan for that. For the winter timetable, we asked for additional early morning sailings and later sailings on Friday and Saturday evening for people to go out and largs. But we're waiting further feedback from Transport Scotland around about that. And the other part, waiting for feedback on, is the contingency planning, where we've asked for a better contingency planning in the winter period if there's a breakdown, to make sure we can get a vessel mobilised for us. The CalMac had put forward a proposal for a crewed vessel to be in the Clyde over the winter time if there's breakdowns on our route or any other routes. So again, we're waiting for feedback in September. The new area operations manager for the area, Victoria Shaw, has started to be out and about, so she'll be out and about meeting key stakeholders over the next few months. Ticketing, the challenges with the ticketing system remain. We do have a meeting in a couple of weeks' time with CalMac to come with some CalMac management, talk about improvements, but as people have gathered to date, it's been not particularly constructive from a Cumbrae point of view. And that's probably a potted history of where we are at the moment. Just keep it short and sweet just now, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Angus. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, Then I'm going to move to quick updates on Key Island projects, Gregor, place plan.
We've already talked about the second home council tax. Probably the only other thing. Tom, I was going to just raise the Japanese knotweed. I don't think Tom Stringy is on the call. I don't know if anyone else is from North Ayrshire Council. But it certainly.
I've had an update from them.
Okay. It appears that some of the knotweed may have been sprayed, but an awful lot of it hasn't.
His update to me said that they wouldn't be doing it until September because he needed to absorb it into the roots. So let me email them and ask what's going on. Councillor Collier.
Yeah, they've not done any spraying yet. They start in September. So I've got a whole list on, even in the mainland of knotweed on council land that they're intending to do in September. That's what they keep telling me.
Okay. They said that last year and then they forgot to do it. They said it was too late.
This year, Scott's knotweed king. He's been round. We've done a journey round, haven't we? That was amazing. And we've looked at every single one, took photographs, tagged it, and Scott's their new best friend.
Well, we just need to keep an eye on it because last year, and it may be the reason that some of it is dying back now is because it was sprayed last year, but they only sprayed some of it and they thought they'd sprayed it all and we made it very clear that they hadn't. So we just need to keep an eye on that.
Well, I'll email Thomas just to make sure, keep it on his radar and make absolutely sure that it happens.
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah, I think we've got the full extent of it now, so we've got a better idea of kind of how bad it is at certain points. But I agree, Gregor, some of it definitely looked as though it had been sprayed when I saw it just recently. That could be a knock-on effect from last year, but I think the position we're in now, we have a fair idea of how much it's spread. So hopefully that's quite useful to the council as well.
Thanks for your help on that. Okay, so shall I move to Scott's? And also, I know I've got 10 minutes mindful of time, but could you do a brief carbon neutral islands project update?
Certainly can, and I'll remove the Japanese knotweed bit that I had in there as well. It's all good news. Starting off with the best news, we found out this week that alongside North Ayrshire Council, we have been successful in our application for the CNI Capital Fund this year, which means we will be receiving £293,000, give or take with a few pence added on, for the continuation of the solar PV and battery project that we were working on. So that's approximately 30 houses to be added to that. As of 2 weeks ago, we now have over 0.5 megawatt of installed rooftop solar, which represents a 473% increase since the CNI project started back in January 23. Can't take credit for all of that, but I think just with the knock-on effect of systems being installed, talking to people, people's understanding of how it works, etc., we've seen a really big increase, which is great. It's cutting people's energy bills, it's keeping the money in their pockets, and it's reducing our reliance on the grid and improving resilience as well. We're also seeing a lot of work ongoing. There's been a bit of a flurry of installs with the Eco4 and area-based scheme. So again, working really closely with North Ayrshire Council on that. And I think it's only fair to mention Gillian Boyd, the energy and sustainability liaison for me as the CNI project at North Ayrshire, because she's putting a lot of work into this, and that relationship has really built up over time. So thank you to Gillian for that. Whilst we're out of the delivery phase of the solar PV and battery project, we've been undertaking some feasibility work on community-owned energy projects. We're looking at a whole host of different things. The idea here is to come up with options that can be taken to the community, get feedback, get their input, and ultimately a decision on the possibility of proceeding with some sort of community-owned project in the future years. So we're quite early on with that. And then finally, a non-CNI update. Thanks to Kelburn Wind Farm, we have been issued funding for 2 new defibs, which have now arrived on the island and will be being installed very soon. One will be replacing the out-of-date one at the Millport Pier, and the other one will be a new install on Butte Terrace in the vicinity of Millport Bowling Club, because that is one of the areas that is not currently covered that well, and it will be obviously accessible to the public, etc. The other defibs will be replaced as part of the pit stop funding that Jan mentioned earlier on.
Thank you.
That's everything from me at the moment.
Thanks, that's really helpful. Any other questions for Scott? No? Okay, so I've got an update from Millport Town Hall. They said that the regeneration works are nearing completion. There's ongoing volunteer painting alongside some employments for local people in the push to get the building ready. The club and the organisation representatives were welcomed into the building on Thursday, the 3rd of July, to see the spaces and storage facilities. They have a target to open as soon as possible in October. This is particularly important given the current closure of the DA Hall. Everyone's going to be told as soon as a date can be confirmed. Okay, and then in terms of the marina, Graham, who sent his apologies, said design works by Wallace Stone are progressing. So those are carrying on. Thank you. And I don't think we have an update from the cathedral this week, do we? Okay, I'll go to Gregor, latest planning and licensing applications.
Yeah, there haven't been any as far as I know. So the only kind of relevant thing is the sale of the water sports centre, which it was sold at auction. I'm not completely sure who to, or whether that will be under the existing planning approval that they've got for a kind of a glamping site. I think the proposal is saying
no, it's a different group. It's a group of property developers, and they've put forward.
Different group, but I think the use that they're describing is the same, basically, as was previously approved. So, but I guess we'll wait and see what they actually do.
Okay. And then for me, just in terms of North Ayrshire Council who aren't here, I've been in correspondence with them over Ninian Park, whether or not we could put some trees in there and create a community orchard. They are saying that at the moment it looks as if Ninian Park isn't owned by, Ninian Park aren't owned by them, the council. So at the moment they're just doing a little look to see who actually owns the land, because obviously me planting trees in land that isn't owned by them might not be great. They know about the festoon lights. I've had many people tell me, so they've known, they've been out for a while. And also the final thing for them was to say they know about the memorial board, and they were planning on putting it up in the next week or so with the plaques from the benches that have been taken off. So because that got chased as well, and I asked about it. So apparently that's supposed to be moving forward. Thank you. Lorraine, you've come in.
Yeah, I was actually hoping that Thomas would be on the call. Alex, it's about that electronic speed advisory sign that's outside Ravenscraig. Now, it's blown round and it now faces Ravenscraig. That was during Storm Ian or whatever it was called in January, February, and it's still like that. So, you know, it used to light up if you were going over the speed limit as you were coming in. So it's facing the wrong way. And it's been like that since the storm. And I was just going to highlight that to Thomas. So I don't know if somebody can pass it on.
I'll drop him an email. Or okay. Councillor Colley, you might be able to pick that up, because I'm over to you now.
Thanks for that. I don't have much to add. Suffice to say that obviously on the camping and camper van issues, I have been trying quite hard to get a response from the powers that be, and all suggestions have been blatantly ignored. So I've escalated it this week. I think I copied Alex into the chief executive, because I have tried very hard with everybody underneath him and got absolutely nowhere. And every email that Alex and I send, we get the same, we're working on it, it's happening. So I'm still working on that and will continue to. I was in council offices today, but he wasn't in, so I couldn't speak to him, but I will continue. I will pick up the couple of issues that have been raised today. In terms of the storm, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of this, they're working through a lot of the signs because a lot of signs were damaged, not just for the council, but also I have a big list myself for the council and Amy. There's many wreck signs, so I don't know if it's on a list, but I will certainly check and find out. Obviously, it's a Viking festival coming up. Their plans are being devastated by the weather forecast at the moment, which is very sad. So obviously there will be some, the car park will be under a fun fair, etc., etc. So it does affect Cumbrae. Nothing else at the moment, unless somebody else has got anything for myself.
Other than to say, I thank you for forwarding on the camping thing, and I'm going to send you some photographs of recent camping.
No, absolutely.
And
keep it up, please do. All evidence is welcome in terms of how severe and what have you. And you saw, I mean, I'm getting quite blunt with my emails now. They're not nice and polite, and they're getting more demanding.
It's just been months. It's been so many months. But we're going to send Robert to go and have a chat to the farmer. He's going to be our new rep on this. And we think that we've looked from ourselves without relying on solicitors, and we think that it's 2 areas of land and therefore 2 landholders. And we've got John here who's going to be talking. I spoke to John this week. He's going to go back and talk internally in the golf club. Robert's going to, and then we would just need to have a lawyer in order to sit down and have a conversation about how and what we could do. So we may end up just bypassing the council.
Yeah, I think because they've been the response yet again, another year has been disappointing to say the least. I'm also disappointed in Police Scotland because every time we have these meetings, we get the same, we can't do anything. And I don't accept that either, because if anybody is causing any noise, etc., out with certain time parameters, then that comes under the law. And they are the law, and I don't understand why. You know, I mean, I think the problem is, obviously you know better than I, is that what do they do with them on an island? And I think that's the issue. They don't tackle it because they don't have the next step. You know, what do they do? But just shutting people up would be helpful.
I think we've got a response here from the police. You're on mute. Okay.
And you got not fine now.
Right, as you'll be aware, there was 2 officers on over the Scooter Rally weekend. That was actually my weekend off. But when they go off duty at 2 o'clock, it's not them that decide if they are recalled to duty. It is the management over on the other side. So first, if you call the police, it will go to a control room in Glasgow. That will then get disseminated down to the area control room. And then the area sergeants and inspectors will then decide if it's warranted for a call out. So the officers may be at the time completely unaware that there was a noise complaint until they return to duty the next day. This will bring us back to an issue that keeps going around and around as well, is that over the weekends, there's no officers on duty in Millport, right? It's only during the evening till 2 o'clock in the morning. Anything out with those hours has to be tackled if it's deemed appropriate to send someone over at all from either largs, but more likely Saltcoats. Okay, and again, that extends to the issues of if the ferry's off, they can't send anybody. And also if the powers that be decide that your nuisance vote, your noise call doesn't warrant somebody being called out, the officers on the island won't even be notified of it. So those are the issues that we have as local officers. We can't just patrol around all night. You know, we have to be accountable for every time we're in this uniform. So we can't go.
I wasn't suggesting it was the local officers, and obviously I'm dealing with the people, the more senior people on the mainland to try and get something specific for Millport, which suits the demands of Millport and to make your life easier and give better coverage.
Well, the answer to that is more cops, and I
know that. I mean, I realise it's that, but everything I do now is a resource-based thing. Everything I do, everything I ask for anybody now, the council, the police, we don't have. But you do have, not you personally, but there are resources out there. We just have to direct it where they're most needed. And that is the issue.
But part of the issue, for this, part of it is a mixture of things. Yes, there's the after, there's once it gets to 2 o'clock in the morning, but there's the initial thing, which is why people felt it was okay to camp in the first place, why people felt it was okay, just that the island is now known as a free-for-all. And what we need to do is to work out, is it a free-for-all? I've had extreme complaints about human waste being dug up on Bell Bay, and the scale of camping that's gone on in the summer means that that beach has had repeated people, if you think every night, 2 or 3 campsites, all burying what it is that they don't take with them, i.e. all of their waste, and it's now extremely polluted. And people are saying, at what point, does someone need to get some terrible disease? It's absolutely disgusting. But at the moment, we can't seem to even get in to have that conversation. And it's about management. And if the island then needs to create another campsite, we need a holistic approach to it. So I know it's really hard. Then we complain to the police that they haven't moved people on. But also we need to say where people can park, where they can camp, what they can do, and tell them proactively rather than complaining. At the moment, we all end up, it's just not solved, and it's repeatedly not solved, and it's just horrible. Gregor, you're on mute. Gregor, you're on mute.
Yeah, so one of the things that is definitely illegal and is identified in all the guidance on wild camping or whatever you choose to call it is that polluting a watercourse is against the law. That is an offence. As is lighting a fire that is able to spread. That is an offence. So, I mean, I think that we need to stop talking about this for 2 or 3 minutes in the community council meetings and going over the same issues, and take it offline and have a proper meeting about these things, because some of these things are definitely offences. There's no question about it.
Okay, I think we can agree that we need to do that. And I know we read the guidance really carefully, and it says you may not bury anything within 20 metres of a watercourse, which means anyone who's on a beach cannot do that. And wild camping isn't when you come with your car. You have to be carrying everything that you're taking with you, and walking in and walking out. There are things that people are not doing, and it's just been stretched. I think we need to close as well because I'm 5 minutes over. So John, final comments.
Sorry, can I just say something? The legislation regarding the Land Act, though the terminology you've just used isn't quite correct. Okay, because so we have the Land Act on our police computer systems, and if you read it in its entirety and not just take out the segment that best suits you, you'll see that there's all sorts of gaps in it. One of the gaps is crossing land. But the land we're talking about, the crossing on Millport, is also the verge. So there's a conflict of interest within the Land Act and within the Road Traffic Act. So you could enforce the Land Act, but then the land that you're enforcing it in regards is relating to the verge of the road. And the verge of the road has a different set of legislation to it. So you're entitled to park on a verge of a road within 15 metres, 16 yards of the road. So there's nowhere in Millport, apart from one maybe Sheriff's Point or the other one around the other corner, where you could get 16 yards off the road. So I'm happy to enforce any law I've got available to me, but I haven't got anything in regards to parking on the verge, because the Road Traffic Act is very clear in where you can park, and there's nobody.
I think I'm looking at people for the terminology and description around wild camping, but I agree with let's take this offline, and because it's such a gnarly issue, and it's been such an issue for a long time, and I think we want to see if we can work in partnership to work out what the island can actually do. In a way where we actually have people who can then, like you, help us understand where the law begins and ends. That would be really helpful. John?
Well, just one thought, that given that the fecal contamination of watercourses and beaches and everything else and swimming waters is a responsibility for SEPA, should we not write to SEPA saying that North Ayrshire Council are allowing this to happen and doing nothing to prevent it?
Okay, we'll take that note and we'll add and we'll have a brainstorm session about how we can just address that. And Councillor Collier, if it's all right, I think we'll ask you to give us some support in that.
Well, I had a suggested we have a working group way back in May, so that's what I've been asking the council to do, to get everybody round the table. So that'd be ideal.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we haven't solved anything, but we've seen a lot going on the island, and thank you everybody for all your efforts and your contributions. It's fantastic, and it's a good community. We just have some small gnarly issues. So looking forward to seeing you in a month's time, and get in touch if you need anything. Okay, thank you.
Cheers, Alex.
Right, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.